Okay, good morning, everyone. Oh, that's nice and loud. Last time I did a presentation, I really struggled with the mic. I think this is a good loud mic, so thank you to the AV team. Hi, everyone. My name's Glenn Shoosmith. I am the founder and chief architect of Journey. So I am here today to talk to you about how retailers can stay alive and create exceptional customer experiences. And I'm very privileged today to be joined on stage in a bit by Andrea Albuquerque from Total Wine & More, who's going to be talking to me a bit about how Total Wines really changed how they manage their customer experiences to really achieve a great success for them and a brand. Now, I think there's a lot of conversations going on at the moment at NRF about the changing face of retail. If any of you have been to some of the keynotes, everyone's talking about, a couple of years ago it was how you could compete with Amazon. And now it's like, look, Amazon's won. Now you need to rethink your strategies. And obviously, that's a hot topic for everybody, and it's a thing that I'm going to touch on a bit as well. But actually, one of the things I want to do is be a bit more reflective about retail. Look at how retail has changed over not just the last 20 or 30 years, but let's look a bit further back. Let's look back 200 years to see how retail has changed over a longer scope than many of us really think about. 200 years ago, retail was a very, very different thing. You didn't shop very often. You might shop once a week, once a month. You might have had to travel hours or even days to get to a store. But the stores were really part of the community. They were in the heart of a town. But they were all about necessity. It wasn't really about convenience. It wasn't really about getting a great experience. It was just about the necessity of the daily things you needed to go shopping for. Fast forward that another 100 years, 1920s. And it's still funny to say we're now in the 2020s. We're back in the 20s again. But look at 1920. And somewhere like here in New York, you really started to see a change in retail. You started to see what people talk about today, the idea of the white glove service, the idea of you going into a store because it was this amazing department store that was this whole world for you to see. And you could see all the riches of the world, you could have great experiences and fantastic service. And that was a real change in the why and the how people shopped. Now let's step forward again, this time to the 1980s. And there's a very different story here. And this is a story that most people think about. For any of us over a certain age that remembers, John Hughes movies, that watched something like Mallrats, the 80s was all about consumerism, commerce, convenience. It was about buying stuff maybe you didn't necessarily really need, but it was all about making it really easy for you to buy stuff. It was all about getting a mall near you, somewhere that you could drive to easily, the endless strip malls of America that made it all about stacking them high and shipping them out to customers as fast as possible. But of course, that's a blip. That's a change. That's already gone away again. That appeared in the 80s, and it's gone away again today. If you look at how retail has evolved since the 80s to today, it's a very different story. That convenience has now been replaced. There's a saying in the UK, my wife's American, she finds it very British, to mooch around the shops. The idea that you go and wander around a mall and just enjoy the experience of shopping is a thing that doesn't happen so much anymore. Now you do it digitally. You do it in the comfort of your own home, and people bring things to you, ship them to you, and you don't have to go to the store. So that convenience that was great in the 80s has now transitioned to online. So then why do you have the stores? What are the stores doing for you? And what you need to do is look back further in history. Now, I'm a techie and I'm a geek, so I like charts. So I thought I'd put this in a chart to really bring it to life about how things have changed over time. So why do you go to a physical store? What are you looking for in your physical store? Well, as I said at the start, necessity. The first thing people go to stores for is necessity. But actually, over time, we've all become aware that we use more and more goods. So necessity has grown, but actually that market's going away, and that market's going away fast. In the UK in particular, the idea of online delivery and big cities across America, the idea of getting your basics, your bread, your milk, your eggs, all coming direct to your door without you having to go to the physical shop is growing more and more. And then there's this story of convenience, of consumerism that all the 80s was about. There was a huge boom in that, the huge boom in the huge strip malls. But that's a blip. That arrived, and it's going away again. So then you get the third reason you go to a shop, convenience, or experience convenience. Experience is something else. Experience is something that became a thing in the 20s, that went away in the 80s, when experience wasn't the priority. Just getting goods into your hands was the priority. But experience is coming back, and experience is coming back with gusto. And as retailers, looking at how you create an experience for your customers is about the reason they'll come back into your stores. So what went wrong and what changed? Well, as I said already, convenience was all about stack them high and sell them cheap. It was about lots of stores. And it was a market that's appeared and disappeared in a relatively short time span. But experience is the feeling you get from going to the shop. Experience is the reason you go now. And everyone's talking about the store of the future, and everyone's then talking about how do we build these showcase stores. And the inevitability is you will have less stores. You will have less staff. But instead of having one showcase store, maybe in New York, every store you have will be a showcase store. Everyone will be a showpiece for your brand. Last year alone, nearly over 9,000 stores closed in the US. And I think you'll see a similar story for 2020. You know, shopping was up this year. Consumer confidence is good, but in-store shopping is still down. And these flagship stores are becoming a really, really key part of how you build your brand with your customers. So how do you do this? How do you make your flagship store work? Well, there's a lot of companies out there, a lot of great companies talking about the use of technology. And I don't just mean, you know, CRMs and customer data technology. I'm talking about, you know, smart windows and AI things that are managed in the store. But that's great. But ultimately, the thing you've still got in the store is humans. And humans like talking to other humans. They like buying from other humans. They don't like buying from robots. It might be cheaper for you to have people buy from robots, but there's a real reason people like buying from people. So you need to work out how to maximize those in-store experiences, maximize your customers' time and maximize your staff's time. And obviously one of the key ways you can do that is through appointments. You know, appointments have moved in the last couple of years from a niche thing that only a few high-end brands needed to now being seen to as a more and more key standard way to make sure the customers come in informed, the customers get great service, and the customers get a great experience. And over half of customers want to meet with you in an appointment. And coming into the store, let's not forget, is hugely valuable. Basket size increases 3 to 10 times. Repeated evidence shows that basket size massively increases when you shop in-store compared to when you shop online. And of course, those experts that are running your e-commerce stores don't like those stats because they want you to shop online because you've probably set them up in a channel strategy that says they get a nice fat bonus if they get people to convert online. We often find there's a problem with channel conflict where they go, well, I don't want people to shop in store because I've been told I just want them to shop online. But you need to bring your channels together so people understand that you take them from online and you take them back into the store, they'll spend a lot more money with you and they'll be great advocates for your brand. But the other key thing, and this is really starting to merge, and this is what I'm really interested to chat to Andrea about, is the use of events in stores. Your stores are key places in your communities, and you need to start seeing them as parts of your community. And events are an increasingly important way that you can engage with your customers and make better use of your stores. So actually, to bring that to life a bit more, let me invite Andrea Albuquerque to the stage. Can I have a round of applause, please? Thank you. Very noisy. Andrea, thank you very much for coming and joining us on stage today. Do you want to start by introducing yourself and your background?
Sure. Glenn, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today. So a little bit of background on me. I've been with Total Wine a little over 8 years. In that time, I've led our email promotions team, our in-store merchandising team. I spent a few years on our buying team. I bought French wine, got to travel the world. And now I'm leading our in-store experience team, focused on customer experience and events. And my team is in charge of in-store tastings, classroom events, and now private appointments.
That's cool. So one of the key things that Total Wines does that I think is very different from other vendors is this idea of a vendor tasting.
Yeah.
When I first heard of that, I was like, what is one of these? Can you explain what that is and why it's sort of valuable for Total Wines?
Sure. So we partner with a lot of our suppliers in wine, beer, and spirits to come in and do tastings in our stores. So this is where we reach out to winemakers, master distillers, local breweries, and really they have the opportunity to come into our stores, pour their product, meet our customers face to face, and provide an exceptional customer experience where they get to talk one-on-one with our customers.
That's cool. So I've got some stats up that you were very kind to share with us as we go through this presentation. And your vendor tastings have seen a huge growth in the last year, which is fantastic, up 35% year on year. Can you sort of talk a bit more about that growth story?
Absolutely. So we're thrilled. We launched Journey, the new platform, in September. And as soon as October, all throughout Q4, we've seen double-digit increase in our vendor tastings. The new platform has definitely given us a more streamlined process for our vendors to request those tastings. Believe it or not, it was a very manual process beforehand where one of my team members had to manually process every tasting request on every store calendar, looking for availability to program them. As you can imagine, it would take weeks to get them on the calendar. Now it's instant, and vendors are able to self-service and request availability based on the availability on the calendar.
I think that's really key. I think it's a bit when you talk about retail technology, everyone's thinking about the customer. But actually it's the staff, the store, and the vendors that sell to the store, and the whole chain that needs to use all these technologies to bring everything together. But let's talk about appointments. So, I said earlier, appointments is becoming more and more standard for a lot of industries, particularly in some of the fashion industries where people are like, oh yes, a suit fitting appointment or something is becoming more commonplace. But I think in your market, it's still a relatively new thing. So you've just introduced the appointments.
Yeah, so we just introduced private appointments last year in May. We've hosted almost 4,000 in 2019 alone. This is a new offering. We were hearing our customers asking for this type of service, and we've so far received amazing feedback, and not just from our customers, but from our store team members as well. A lot of these private appointments are focused around wedding planning, which is really exciting classification to get into. It's a huge life event for our customers, and it's not even just about their wedding day. It's about all the events leading up to their wedding, whether it's an engagement party, a bachelorette party or bachelor party, rehearsal dinners. We're there to help support them. They simply go on, provide their information to book their appointment, answer a few booking questions. They can tell us, how big their wedding is going to be, what their budget is, what type of items they're interested in, and then our store team member can prepare for the private appointment and really tailor the experience in the store with them and really delight them with this new offering.
That's cool. I really wish I'd had that. I may be British, but my wife's American. We got married in her back garden in Michigan, and I remember just scrambling around a big warehouse trying to pick large quantities of wine, having no idea what I was buying or how much I needed. So I wish you'd had that like 10 years ago. That would have been very helpful. But so onto the event side of things. And I think this is a really interesting growth area, and I think what Total Wine's doing is amazing. So you do sort of private classes, meetings, consumer classes, and these have really created traffic for Total Wines. Can you talk a bit more about those?
Sure. So in our stores, we have these beautiful classrooms, and we conduct educational seminars and classes for our customers. It's a great way to get tastings in and teach our customers all about, the wonderful world of wine, beer, and spirits. And to add to that, a customer can request a private class, so they can host a class with just their private family and friends. And then another offering where we're really getting the community involved is with private meetings. So local businesses can rent out our classroom. So we're seeing a lot of book clubs, realtors, financial advisors renting out our room for free, and then they can bring their customers in, use the space to conduct their meeting, and then we offer them a complimentary wine tasting at the end. So it's a great way to introduce our products, but also get the community into our stores.
And I think that's fantastic. I think, as retailers, you need to stop thinking as consumers as just sort of the other. You need to think of yourself more as part of the community. And it's not just we gave this to charity, or we had a lunch or something, or actually really involved in the community. I think is a fantastic thing for Total Wines to be doing.
Yeah.
So how does that affect things on the staff side? A good system obviously should help with productivity and engagement and sort of everything from the staff side. So, what's switching to Journey really helped you there?
Sure. So, like I mentioned, a lot of our processes before were very manual, and so it was somebody on my team's full-time job to process all these vendor tasting requests and special event requests. And now that person, I'm able to shift her from a full-time job of processing to about 10% of managing the database, and now she can work on new brand experiences for our customer, which is incredible. We're also seeing incredible growth because of the platform. So in the past, we were only able to host one event a day in the classroom because there were a lot of system limitations. But now with the Journey system, we can configure each store from when the store opens to when the store closes. So we're seeing numerous events per day, which is really contributing to a lot of the event growth that we're seeing.
That's cool. That's really awesome. So obviously, one of the big topics is, everyone's sort of looking to the future. And, as I said earlier, it's amazing to think that it's 2020 today. Everyone was talking in December about how it's, Blade Runner and there's always the topic of sort of, are we in Minority Report yet? And where is the future and why aren't we there yet? But, the retailer of tomorrow, everyone's saying is a very different place than the retailer today. And, obviously we talked about the vendor tastings, and people are saying, well, it's not just around what's at your kiosks and what's in your end caps, but it's a place where people can feel connected through sort of community and experience. What does the notion of sort of community and experience, really mean at Total Wine?
Sure. So for us, community is very important, and we're very involved in our local communities and giving back. We're a privately owned family business, and so that really resonates throughout all of our stores. We want, when our customers come into the store, we want them to feel like family. So we're really focused on having the best selection of products at the best price and offering the best service. And we put a lot behind the service team members. We support them. They travel around the world to the biggest wine growing regions to be trained and meet with winemakers and learn.
Can I get a job at Total Wine? It sounds amazing.
It is incredible. And so they're able to come back, and when they're meeting with our customers, it's not just a hard sell. They're really storytelling about the vineyard they were just in and the winemaker they had just met. And so now it's turning into storytelling and really romancing, what they're about to purchase and giving the customer the confidence to buy that bottle.
That's cool. And when we first started speaking, you said something that a phrase you use at Total Wine that really sort of resonated with me was, you said you used the term, it's all about experiential retail. Can you sort of expand on that? Because I think that's something the audience will really like to sort of understand more of.
Yeah. So experiential retailing really, it's turned into a buzz term into our, core fabric. It's no longer about just the sales transaction. It's really about, when the customer comes in the store, you want to get all 5 senses going and really transport them into a magical place. So we're doing that today with the tastings on the selling floor. But also, we want to transform, if you're walking down the Italian wine aisle, we want to transport you to a beautiful village in Tuscany. And it's not just about buying that bottle of wine, but it's maybe also purchasing some ceramics or olive oil or pasta in your purchase. So, it's really getting involved, and then that's also where the service team member comes in and can do some storytelling around the product, really to elevate the customer experience. And then we're also seeing a huge, I'm talking about wine a lot, but we're seeing the industry really shift also over to spirits, and there's a lot of trending categories there. We're seeing tequila and gin take off, and
gin's huge in the UK. Everyone's doing gin bars and gin tastings and gin mixology and all that.
Yeah, and what we're learning is that there's more than one way to drink a gin and tonic, and so we're able to display simple cocktails for customers to taste and teaching them different ways to enjoy their spirits. In addition to wine and beer. So it's really an incredible time right now to be coming in and experiencing our product, the try before you buy.
Yeah, I think particularly with the takeoff of things like the tonics, the Fever Trees of the world and stuff, suddenly actually you've got the vendors behind the retailer wanting to really get in front of the customers themselves and say, here's why you need to think more about this purchase, make a more considered purchase, or invest in this more sophisticated, change your taste, as it were.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what's next? Speaking of the future, you've got customer experience, you've got events. Over the next year, what are you looking at next to improve the sort of immersive customer experiences?
Sure. So now that we're on the Journey platform, I feel like the sky's the limit. Q4 alone, we saw double-digit increases in vendor tastings. We really want to continue to grow that over 2020. We also want to look at, how do we utilize our classrooms more by bringing in the local community and also offering more educational classes. And then really perfecting that one-on-one private appointment and get into more clienteling and really elevating that experience to delight our customers.
I think that's great. And it's interesting. I mean, obviously, no matter what you think of, WeWork and what's good and bad about them, but I think the use of sort of event space and service space for local companies, local businesses, local meetings, that sort of for the work-at-home person that then can come to your store and actually use that as a place, I think is a fantastic way of thinking about new business models and new approaches to outreach to the customer. So you know, what for you in terms of the balance between technology and people, we were talking earlier and it's like, is it all, VR headsets? Do I need to, experience Tuscany through a Oculus Rift that makes me think I'm sitting on the terraces of Italy somewhere, or?
So I think we're definitely headed to that, virtual reality space, but I do think there's something, we want to use our service team members in the store as well as technology hand in hand to enhance the customer experience. I don't think we'd ever want to move fully to a technology-based robot, so to speak, interaction. I think that a lot of our customers come back because they love Joe's recommendations and they love hearing about the trips he's taken and hearing all the knowledge he has to share. And we really value an educated customer, and that's why we're offering a plethora of educational classes and consumer seminars for our customers and our local market.
I think that's really interesting. I think the idea of like trusting Joe's recommendations is a really important point, because I think people are losing trust in Amazon reviews, right? A 5-star review on Amazon is not what it used to be, right? Because it's so easy to game. There's so many people that said, I use these bots, I hired these mechanical Turks to go and make sure that this thing was the top promoted seller with 5-star reviews. So you read something, you're like, is that a genuine review? Is that a fake review? Is that really a good thing? Whereas I think the idea of going into a store and speaking to a human that says, I went there, I drunk this, I recommend it, would you like to try it, is something that a digital-only experience will never be able to match. I mean, the feeling from my side is that, say, stores, in your case, actually, you're not closing stores because you're all about that. But for a lot of the big box retailers, stores, there will be less stores. But the staff you'll have in the stores will be smarter, will be better trained, will be showpieces for you. And I think that's one of the sort of key things for Total Wines, really, isn't it? That your staff aren't just, do you want a wine? Here you go, try that one, it's red coloured. A bit more educated.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely take pride. We always put the customer first, but then right behind them is our staff in stores. We support them 100%. We don't have a corporate office. We have a store support center. And we're really there to provide them, all of the service they need so that they can service the customer.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So that pretty much wraps up my questions for you. If anyone has any more questions, I think we've got a couple of minutes we can take some Q&A. That's okay with you?
Yeah, sounds
Or they
good.
can come and grab you after a few questions. If you want to know more about experiential retail, please come and see us at booth 1139, which is just over there somewhere. But has anyone got any questions for Andrea while she's kindly agreed to be on stage with us? Gentleman down there? I'll try and repeat what you asked.
Are your customers having to use an app to experience your platform?
Are the customers having to use an app to experience the platform?
So I could take the first half, and you can probably elaborate on the system. So right now we are just a web-based application. We're looking into an app in the future. Right now it's just desktop or mobile friendly.
On the journey side of things, we integrate into people's apps. So we have done it in the past where a customer's made part of their app the ability to, book appointments, show upcoming classes, book into classes. And that's great because when you engage with customers through a login, through an app or through any other login experience, you can really tailor it more. You can really personalize it more. You can look at their history of appointments. You can look at the wines they bought in the past. I see you like Italian reds. Maybe you'd like to come in. We're doing a tasting next week on that. Maybe you can highlight it. So the more you can use the customer's data through an app or through a customer sign-in, I think the better. And we support all of that. But at the moment, I think Total Wines is web-based. One more question quickly before I wrap up. No, that's it. Well, that leaves me to thank Andrea very much for coming on stage with me today. If anyone has any questions, please ask her.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been great.